All right. Well, good morning. Here we go. I wanted to take some time and answer some questions to kind of summarize some of the things that were discussed over the last few months. Excuse me, in our doctrine uh, studies. And so, one of the questions I wanted to kind of summarize was this talk about Jacob, and this question: did Jacob deceive his brothers for the birthright, or his uncle for the cattle? And one of the things that we talked about, when Jacob was born, he was a twin. He came out second. His older brother Esau came out first, and he was holding on to the heel of his brother. And so they called him Jacob, and the name means supplanter. And this is all kind of going back to this Bible study I did a couple months ago, and where I was talking about how in the English community we like to take words from other cultures and apply our own definitions and then implement those definitions into their use in the other culture. And I think it's deceptive. I think when it comes to Bible study, it's adding to and taking away from Scripture, and I don't think it should be practiced in churches. His name does mean supplanter. That's the official meaning of his name. And if you want to give it like a rough translation in English, it would be one who seizes. And in this case, he had seized a hold of his brother's heel. I think if you wanted to add some sort of literal application to it in his life, he seized opportunities that came about. So I asked the question, why does Sunday school material note that figuratively it means great deceiver? And there's two points of view. You have a literal point of view and a figurative point of view, and you can say literally that it means supplanter, and that would be true. But figuratively, you're saying that I'm really gonna we're gonna move away from what the real meaning is. We're just going to put that aside and give it our own meaning. And so that's what you're doing. You're saying, God, Jacob's name means supplanter, but we're going to avoid that original meaning and give it our own a figurative meaning of great deceiver. And I think because the churches have done this and they have applied this idea that Jacob was a deceiver to every step of his life, and I don't think there's anything biblical about it. I think actually it's the devil's work. The devil hates Israel. He wants the world to hate Israel. And I think what better way than to convince, especially people in the church, that the foundation of the nation of Israel was a foundation of deception. And then I think that's what the devil is doing here, trying to convince us that Jacob was a deceiver. So we talked about this passage where he deceived his father, and I admit he did deceive his father. I don't think he had a heart of deception, and we didn't look at this originally, so let's look at it real quick. And we're in Genesis chapter 27, and here Rebekah, which is Jacob's mother, spoke unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard your father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison and make me savory meat, that I may eat and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Therefore, my son, obey my voice, according to that which I command thee. Now go to the flock and fetch from me thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make savory meat for thy father, which as he loves. And thou shalt bring it to the father, that he may eat and he may bless thee before his death. And so this is Rebekah going to Jacob with an act of deception. I mean, this whole idea was Rebekah's. And so Jacob responds, and he says to his mother, Behold, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, I am smooth. My father, peradventure, will feel me and know that I seem to him as a deceiver, and will bring a curse upon me and not a blessing. So he was afraid. He didn't want to deceive his father. And his mother said unto him, Unto me be thy curse, my son, only obey my voice and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory meat, such as his father loved. And so here I see his mother with deception in her heart, with this plan that was laid out. And so she took it to her son. He objected and put him in a corner. Do I disobey my mother, or do I deceive my father? And his mother was before him, and so he obeyed his mother instead. And so I don't see any deception in his character or in his actions. So back to this point, did he deceive Esau in regard to the birthright? Well, let's read this passage. We're here in Genesis chapter 25, verse 29 through 34 says, Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came in from the field and was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, that the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name is called Edom. If you ever wondered who the Edomites were in the Bible, they were descendants of Esau. So that's just a little side note. Verse 31 says, Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. I mean, I don't see any deception here. You know, hey, you want my food? Sell me your birthright. And Esau said, behold, I'm to the point to die. What profit does my birthright do to me? And so basically he's saying, I'd rather die. I'd rather live without my birthright than to die with it. Just give me food. And so Jacob says, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him and sold him his birthright to Jacob. So that this transaction was open and free. Now, it does say in verse 34, Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he ate and drank and rose up and went his way. And Esau despised his birthright. Well, of course he did. He sold his entire birthright for a bowl of porridge. But that is not because Jacob deceived him. That is because Jacob seized an opportunity and Esau allowed it. And so here's the story of the cattle. When Jacob was with his uncle Laban, Laban had deceived him regarding marrying Rachel, and so he married Leah first and had to work for Rachel, and now he had wives and sons and was going to leave. And Laban protested; he didn't want him to leave, and he said unto him, I pray thee, if you found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord has blessed me for thy sake. So here Laban's admitting the Lord is blessing Jacob. And because Jacob is there at Laban's house, those blessings are spilling over into Laban's life. And he said, tell me, what do you want to stay, and I'll give it to you. Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And Jacob said unto him, thou knowest I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me, for it was little which thou had before I came, and it is now increased into a multitude. And the Lord has blessed thee since my coming, and now when shall I provide for my own household also? So he's saying, you know that the Lord has blessed me since I've been here, and he has blessed you through that, and I want to provide for my own. And so he said, what shall I give thee? Jacob said, you don't have to give me anything. If thou wilt this thing for me, I will again feed your flocks. So basically saying, you don't have to give me anything, just pay me these wages. And verse 32 says, I will pass through all the flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted calf, all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. Of such shall be my hire. So he's saying, I just want to be paid. You don't have to give me anything. Just pay me for the work I do. And I don't even want to be paid top dollar. Give me the worst of all you have. And so, I mean, there's no deception in his heart here. Verse 33, so shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come to my hire before thy face. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, behold, I will, it might be according to thy word. So Laban agreed to this transaction. And later on, Jacob comes back and says this to Laban, I have been 20 years in your house. I've served thee 14 years for thy two daughters, because Laban deceived me. And then I served you 6 years for cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times, because Laban continued to deceive him. In verse 42, except the God my father, the God of Abraham, the fear of Isaac, had been with me, surely thou hast sent me away now empty. But God has seen my affliction, the labor of my hands, and will rebuke thee yesternight. So I see a pattern throughout Jacob's life of people deceiving him and God blessing him, not the other way around, not him being a deceiver. In fact, if you look throughout his life, there was an issue with Jacob's daughter Dinah, and Jacob told his sons, you need to go to this village and make things right with these people. And so they went and made this deal with the people and ended up slaughtering the whole village. So they deceived their father in their actions. And Jacob was deceived in regard to Joseph when they sold Joseph into slavery. They took his coat of many colors, dipped it in blood, took it home, and told his dad that his son had been ravaged by wolves. And so all throughout Jacob's life, you see this deception, Jacob being deceived, not the other way around. In fact, this is an interesting verse in Numbers chapter 23, verse 21, says, he hath beheld iniquity. He hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob, neither hath he seen perverseness in Israel. Now, Jacob is Israel. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Jacob is Israel. The promises of Israel are the promises of Jacob. And I think that's why God, the devil hates Israel so much and wants to destroy Jacob's character. But it says the Lord, his God, is with him, and the shout of a king is among them. Down here, surely no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and Israel, who hath God wrought. I mean, Jacob is not a deceiver, and I reject that theology. I reject that thought, that concept. I will never accept it, and so that's a little bit more about that. I hope that helps understand that. We'll do a few more of these question answer things, and then later this week move on to the Apostle Paul. So thank you for joining me. I hope that was a blessing to you, and we'll see you again soon. God bless you.